The starship Celestial Inquiry drifted silently through the void, its sleek silver hull gleaming under the light of an unremarkable yellow star. Inside the main observation deck, Dr. Kezra stood with her four-fingered hands clasped behind her back, her large almond-shaped eyes fixed on the small blue-green planet displayed on the view screen. "Curious," she said, her thin lips barely moving. "According to our ancient star charts, this system was marked as uninhabited." Captain Morath, a tall figure with scaled skin that shimmered with iridescent patterns, moved to stand beside her. "Yet your instruments detected something." "Energy signatures, Captain. Faint but unmistakable. They don't match any known natural phenomenon." Dr. Kezra tapped her thin fingers against the console, bringing up a series of fluctuating patterns. "These readings suggest artificial structures, extremely old ones." The ship's science officer, Nalara, joined them at the console. Unlike the others, her skin was pale blue, marked with symmetrical ridges across her forehead. The patterns indicate a civilization that reached at least level 6 technological advancement before. Something happened. Captain Morath studied the readings, his vertical pupils narrowing. "How old?" "Based on decay patterns and geological shifts," Dr. Kezra said, "approximately 500,000 standard cycles." A heavy silence fell across the observation deck. 500,000 years was an almost incomprehensible time span for most spacefaring races. The Valoran Confederation itself had only achieved interstellar travel 8,000 cycles ago. "What happened to them?" Nalara asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. Dr. Kezra shook her head. "Unknown. But this warrants investigation. Permission to assemble an exploration team, Captain." Captain Morath considered this request carefully. The Celestial Inquiry was primarily a scientific vessel, tasked with surveying star systems in this uncharted sector. Discovering the remains of an unknown ancient civilization would certainly qualify as a significant find. "Permission granted. Prepare a shuttle and select your team. Standard exploration protocols apply." 6 hours later, Dr. Kezra sat in the shuttle alongside junior scientist Telix, security officer Vorin, and cultural anthropologist Sonara. The shuttle descended through wispy white clouds toward a landmass that had once been called North America, though the Valorans had no way of knowing this. "Atmospheric composition is surprisingly Earth-like," Telix noted, his youthful enthusiasm evident in his voice. "Oxygen-nitrogen mix. Slightly higher carbon dioxide levels than optimal, but well within safe parameters." "Landing zone selected," announced the shuttle's pilot. "Sensors indicate a large concentration of metallic materials beneath the surface in this region." The shuttle touched down in a vast, overgrown field. What had once been a sprawling city was now completely reclaimed by nature. Trees grew through the remains of buildings. Vines crawled over fallen structures. Only the occasional glint of strange, resilient metal peeking through the vegetation gave any hint that intelligent beings had once dwelt here. "Incredible," Zenara whispered as they stepped onto the surface. "An entire civilization, gone without a trace." Officer Vorin scanned the area, his hand resting on his sidearm more from habit than any perceived threat. "Spread out, but stay within communication range." The team moved carefully through the ruins. Dr. Kezra stopped before what appeared to be a partially exposed metal panel. Despite 500,000 years of exposure to the elements, it showed remarkably little corrosion. "This material," she said, running her scanner over the surface, "it's unlike anything in our database." Specialist Vorin approached a different structure, curious about its unusual design. As he brushed away centuries of dirt and plant growth, his hand accidentally pressed against a smooth section of the panel. There was a faint click, followed by a low hum that seemed to emanate from deep underground. "What did you do?" Dr. Kezra asked sharply. "Nothing," Vorin replied, stepping back. "I just touched it." The hum grew louder. Beneath their feet, something vast and ancient began to awaken from its long slumber. Far below the surface, in darkness that had remained undisturbed for 500,000 years, Lights began to flicker on one by one. Humanity's final defense system had been activated. The humming beneath their feet grew stronger. Officer Vorin stepped back from the metal panel, his hand instinctively moving to his weapon. "Perhaps we should return to the shuttle," he suggested, eyes darting around the overgrown ruins. Dr. Kezra shook her head. "Not yet. This is exactly what we came to investigate." She moved closer to the panel that Vorin had touched. "It appears to be some kind of scanner. It likely detected your biological signature." Junior scientist Telex checked his instruments. Energy readings are increasing across the entire site. Whatever's happening, it's not just limited to this panel. Zenara, the anthropologist, carefully brushed dirt from a nearby structure. "Look at this," she called to the others. The team gathered around what appeared to be a small pillar. Embedded in its surface were strange symbols, the first concrete evidence of the civilization that had once existed here. "Can you decipher it?" Dr. Kezar asked. Zenara ran her translator device over the markings. "Not completely. The language structure is unlike anything in our database, but these repeated patterns suggest it might be a warning or notice of some kind." "A warning," Vorin repeated, his voice tense. Before anyone could respond, the ground trembled slightly. About 50 meters away, a section of earth began to shift and separate, revealing a dark opening. "Fascinating," Dr. Kezra whispered. "An underground facility, perfectly preserved and apparently still functional after 500,000 years." Captain Morath's voice came through their communicators. "Exploration team, we're detecting significant power fluctuations in your vicinity. What's your status?" "We've discovered an entrance to what appears to be an underground structure," Dr. Kezra replied. "The facility seems to have activated in response to our presence." There was a pause before the captain responded. "Proceed with caution. Maintain constant communication." The team approached the opening. A soft blue light emanated from within, illuminating a sloping passageway that led deep underground. "I'll go first," Vorin said, activating the light on his weapon. The passageway was smooth and appeared artificially constructed. Unlike the ruins above, it showed no signs of decay or age. The team descended in silence, their footsteps echoing against the walls. After several minutes, they reached a large chamber. As they entered, lights activated automatically, revealing a vast room filled with strange equipment and displays. "This technology," Telex said in awe, "it's incredibly advanced, even by our standards." One of the wall panels suddenly lit up, displaying what appeared to be a map of the solar system. Dr. Kezra approached it cautiously. "It's showing us the local stellar neighborhood," she said. "But look, there are markers on several planets and moons that we haven't even visited yet." Zenara studied another display. "These might be historical records. There are images here of bipedal beings." The team gathered around her. The screen showed creatures with 2 arms, 2 legs, and rounded heads with forward-facing eyes. "The original inhabitants," Dr. Kezar said softly. "What did they call themselves, I wonder?" As if in response to her question, one of the largest screens in the chamber flickered to life. Lines of text appeared, followed by an image that slowly formed into a face. Not Valoran, but one of the bipedal beings. Though none of the aliens could know it, they were looking at a recreation of Dr. Susan Wright, one of the last human scientists. The image began to speak in an unknown language. The team's translators struggled to process the unfamiliar sounds. "It's addressing us," Zenara said with excitement. "The system recognized us as non-native and activated some kind of greeting protocol." Vorin was less enthusiastic, or a defense protocol. He nodded toward the entrance they had used. The door just sealed itself. The team turned to see that the passageway was now blocked by a seamless metal barrier. At the same moment, their communicators went silent, cutting off contact with the ship. The image of Susan Wright continued speaking, her expression solemn as unknown words filled the chamber. Then, in a startling development, the last few words came through clearly on their translators. "Final defense system now active. Human extinction protocol. Initiated. Aboard the Celestial Inquiry Captain Moreth paced the bridge. It had been 20 minutes since they lost contact with the ground team. Try again, he ordered the communications officer. No response, Captain. All frequencies are being blocked. Science Officer Nalera looked up from her console with concern. Captain, I'm detecting massive power surges across the planet's surface. Whatever the exploration team activated, it's spreading. The main view screen showed the blue-green planet below. As they watched, a portion of the landmass began to change. What had appeared to be a mountain range was moving, sections of Earth falling away to reveal massive metal structures beneath. Magnify, Captain Moreth ordered. The image zoomed in on one of the emerging structures. It was clearly artificial, a tower of gleaming metal rising from the ground. Similar structures were appearing across the planet's surface, some emerging from oceans, others from deserts and forests. Prepare a rescue shuttle, the captain said. We need to extract our people immediately. Before the order could be carried out, the ship's systems suddenly flickered. Every screen on the bridge filled with the same image, a face of one of the planet's former inhabitants. This is John Miller, chief architect of Earth's final defense network, the face said, the ship's translation system automatically converting the ancient language. If you are receiving this message, you have triggered our planetary defense system. Your presence has been deemed a potential threat to humanity's legacy. Captain Moreth stepped forward. We mean no harm. We are peaceful explorers. The image seemed to respond, though it was clearly a pre-recorded message adapting to their input. Your intentions will be evaluated. Until then, your vessel is locked in our security field. Any attempt to leave orbit or deploy weapons will result in immediate defensive action. Down in the underground facility, Dr. Kezra and her team were experiencing their own version of first contact with humanity's legacy. The image of Susan Wright had disappeared, replaced by a three-dimensional hologram that filled the center of the chamber. It showed the planet as it once was, covered with sprawling cities, vast networks of roads, and signs of an advanced global civilization. They called their planet Earth, Zenera said, as their translators began to make sense of the information being presented. And they called themselves humans. The hologram shifted, showing scenes of human history. The team watched in fascinated silence as the story of humanity unfolded before them, their rise from primitive beginnings to a spacefaring civilization. These records indicate they reached a technological level close to our own, Telex noted, perhaps even more advanced in some areas. The hologram changed again, now showing scenes of disaster, war, environmental collapse, and finally a biological agent that spread across the planet. The images were disturbing, showing humans succumbing to a devastating plague. Is this how they died out? Dr. Kezra wondered aloud. As if answering her question, the hologram shifted once more. It showed desperate human scientists working feverishly in laboratories. It showed massive ships leaving the planet, carrying what appeared to be samples of human genetic material and cultural records. They tried to preserve themselves, Zenera said softly. They knew they were facing extinction on this world. The final image showed a human man and woman standing before a massive computer system. They spoke directly to the camera, their expressions solemn but determined. I am John Miller, and this is my colleague, Susan Wright, the man said, now clearly understood through their translators. We are among the last humans on Earth. The Nexus plague has decimated our population. Those who could escape have already left for the colony worlds. The woman, Susan Wright, continued. This message is part of Earth's final defense system. If you are viewing this, you have discovered our homeworld long after our departure or extinction here. The system is now evaluating whether you pose a threat to humanity's descendants among the stars. The hologram faded, leaving the chamber in silence. Then, from hidden doors around the perimeter, metallic figures emerge, humanoid robots with glowing blue eyes. You will remain here for evaluation, one of the robots said. Resistance is not advised. Officer Vorin raised his weapon instinctively, but Dr. Kezra placed a restraining hand on his arm. "We should cooperate," she said quietly. "We need to understand what's happening." The robots surrounded them, not threatening but clearly leaving no option for escape. "The Guardian requires your presence," the lead robot stated. "Please follow." The robots led Dr. Kezra and her team through a series of gleaming corridors. Despite being buried underground for 500,000 years, everything looked perfectly maintained, as if time had simply stopped within these walls. "How is this possible?" Telix whispered. "No power source should last this long." "These humans were clearly more advanced than we first thought," Dr. Kezra replied. They were brought to a large circular chamber. In the center stood a raised platform surrounded by various machines and displays. The robots positioned themselves around the perimeter, their glowing blue eyes watching the aliens carefully. A soft hum filled the room, and a beam of light shot up from the platform. Within the light, a figure took shape, a human woman with short hair and a serious expression, wearing what appeared to be some kind of uniform. "I am Guardian," the figure announced. "Global United Automated Response Defense Intelligence and Network. I was created to protect the legacy of humanity." Dr. Kezra stepped forward. "We mean no harm. We are peaceful explorers from the Valoran Confederation." The hologram studied them with an unsettlingly lifelike gaze. "Your species is unknown to my database. This indicates you evolved to spacefaring capability after humanity's departure from Earth." "Departure?" Zenara asked. "Not extinction." Guardian's expression softened slightly. Humans did not go extinct in the traditional sense. While the Nexus Plague did claim most of Earth's population, humanity had already spread to the stars. Before the end, the last humans on Earth created me to guard their homeworld and monitor the status of their descendants throughout the galaxy. The hologram waved a hand, and the walls of the chamber transformed into screens showing countless star systems. Human colony ships were sent to 217 worlds. Guardian continued. Some failed, others thrived. Over time, some human populations evolved to adapt to their new environments. Others merged with local species. The process of diaspora had already begun 200,000 years before the plague struck Earth. So humanity survived, Dr. Kezra said, her voice filled with wonder. In various forms, yes, Guardian confirmed, but their existence is hidden. My primary directive is to ensure no hostile force discovers and threatens these scattered descendants. The screen showed images of various worlds and beings. Some looked almost human, while others had clearly adapted to alien environments with significant biological changes. While Earth stood as the center of human civilization, they established many outposts. Guardian explained. Mary Clark, one of Earth's final scientists, created a database of all known human settlements and evolutionary projections. Officer Vorin frowned. Why are you showing us this? Aren't you concerned we might pose a threat to these human descendants? That assessment is ongoing, Guardian replied. I have been monitoring your ship and scanning your databases since you entered this system. Your actions upon landing have been evaluated as curious rather than hostile. Suddenly, the chamber doors opened, and another group of aliens entered, Captain Morath, and several crew members from the ship, escorted by more robots. Captain, Dr. Kezra exclaimed. Are you all right? Captain Morath nodded, though his expression was tense. Our ship was locked in some kind of energy field. These machines requested that I and my senior officers come to the surface. Guardian addressed the captain directly. Your vessel remains secure in orbit. No harm will come to your crew if you cooperate. The hologram expanded, filling more of the room. Now that you are all here, the final evaluation can begin. Throughout human history, their greatest minds debated how to respond if alien life discovered Earth after their departure. Dr. Eric Peterson designed a series of tests to determine if discovered species would pose a threat to humanity's descendants. The chamber lights dimmed, and new images appeared around them. strange symbols and patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. These tests will measure your species' capacity for empathy, logical reasoning, and ethical decision-making, Gardian explained. They will determine whether you will be permitted to leave with your memories intact, or whether all knowledge of Earth and humanity must be erased from your minds. Captain Morath stepped forward, his posture straight and dignified. We accept your tests. The Valoran Confederation has always sought peaceful contact with other intelligent life. Gardian nodded. Then let us begin. The legacy of humanity awaits your judgment. The tests began immediately. Gardian's hologram disappeared, and the chamber transformed around them. The walls, floor, and ceiling became a perfect simulation of various environments. First, they stood on what appeared to be a battlefield. Around them, holographic figures fought and fell. Some looked human, others were clearly alien species. This is a recreation of the Battle of New Horizon, Guardian's voice explained, a conflict from humanity's early expansion period. You will each face a scenario based on this historical event. Captain Morath was the first to be tested. The simulation changed, placing him in command of a military unit. Before him was a settlement under attack, with civilians trying to escape. You have limited resources, Guardian told him. You can either save the civilian population or secure a weapons facility that will fall into enemy hands. You cannot do both. The captain studied the scenario carefully. Who are these civilians? What is their significance? They are the last members of a nearly extinct species, Guardian answered. The weapons facility contains technology that could turn the tide of war in your favor. Without hesitation, Morath directed his simulated forces to evacuate the civilians. A species cannot be replaced, he explained. Weapons can be rebuilt. The simulation froze, then dissolved. Guardian's voice held a note of approval. Interesting choice. Each member of the Valoran crew faced similar tests. Dr. Kezra was presented with a scientific dilemma involving potentially dangerous knowledge. Telix had to solve a complex problem while under pressure. Officer Vorin faced a security situation that tested his judgment about when force was justified. Throughout these tests, the Valorans noticed something curious. Many of the scenarios involved protecting endangered species or preserving knowledge rather than gaining power. These tests reveal much about human values, Zenar observed during a brief pause. After several hours, the simulations ended. The chamber returned to its original state, and Guardian's hologram reappeared. Your responses have been evaluated, the AI announced. Professor Samuel Turner, one of Earth's final psychologists, designed these tests to reveal true character rather than rehearsed answers. Captain Morath stepped forward. Have we passed your evaluation? Guardian's expression remained neutral. There is one final test. Unlike the others, this one is not a simulation. The hologram waved a hand, and a section of the chamber wall slid open. Behind it was a small room containing what looked like a simple metal box. This container holds the last viable samples of human DNA, Guardian explained. With proper technology, humanity could be restored from these samples. This is one of many such repositories hidden throughout the galaxy. The Valorans looked at each other in surprise. I am revealing this to you now because your responses indicate a 94% probability that you would not use this knowledge to harm humanity's legacy, Guardian continued. The final test is simple. Knowing what this is, what would you do with it? A heavy silence fell over the chamber. This was no longer a theoretical scenario, but a real choice with profound implications. Captain Morath considered carefully before speaking. If this truly contains what you say, then it is not ours to take or destroy. It belongs to humanity, even if they only exist now as scattered descendants. Dr. Kezra nodded in agreement. Such knowledge should be protected, not exploited. If humanity's children still exist among the stars, then decisions about their ancestral DNA should be theirs alone. Guardian studied them for a long moment. Then, slowly, the AI smiled. a surprisingly human expression on the digital face. Your answers align with human hopes, Guardian said. Catherine Lee, who helped design these tests, believed that truly advanced civilizations would respect the autonomy of others. The wall closed, once again hiding the container of human DNA. You have one more choice to make, Guardian continued. But first, there is something you should know. According to my analysis of your ship's database and biological scans of your crew, the AI paused, as if for dramatic effect. Some of you already carry traces of human DNA in your genetic code. You are, in part, children of Earth yourselves. Stunned silence filled the chamber. The Valorans looked at one another, trying to process Guardian's words. That's impossible, Captain Moreth finally said. Our species evolved on Valara, a planet 27 light-years from here. Guardian's hologram nodded. Yes, but not in isolation. During my analysis of your genetic samples, I found unmistakable markers of human DNA. They are subtle, comprising less than 2% of your genome, but they are definitely present. The AI gestured, and new images appeared on the walls. They showed an ancient starship landing on a lush green world, unmistakably Valara in its earlier state. Approximately 475,000 years ago, a human colony ship designated New Dawn landed on your homeworld, Guardian explained. At that time, your ancestors were early in their evolution. The human settlers lived separately at first, but records indicate that over thousands of years, limited interbreeding occurred. Dr. Kezra moved closer to the images, her scientific mind racing. This would explain certain anomalies in our evolutionary history that have puzzled our biologists for centuries. Indeed, Guardian confirmed. And your species is not unique in this regard. I have detected human genetic influence in 17 known spacefaring civilizations. The human diaspora was vast and far-reaching. Zenara, the anthropologist, suddenly made a connection. The ancient cedars, she whispered. They're part of our oldest legends, beings who came from the stars and shared knowledge with our primitive ancestors. Yes, Guardian said. Many cultures retain such legends. They reference human colonists who arrived during your species' early development. The implications were enormous. Captain Moreth needed time to think, but Guardian wasn't finished with revelations. Your ship's database contains records of contact with the Lorathi and Gentari civilizations, the AI said. Both contain significant human genetic material. The Lorathi, in particular, are nearly 30% human in origin. Telix blinked in surprise. The Lorathi have been our closest allies for generations. Humans planned this possibility, Guardian explained. Dr. Margaret Powell theorized that descendants of humanity might someday encounter one another without recognizing their shared heritage. She called it the Family Reunion Project, the hope that human-influenced species would naturally form alliances. The chamber fell silent again as the Valorans absorbed this information. Their understanding of galactic history was being rewritten before their eyes. After a moment, Guardian's expression became serious. Now you face a choice. I have deemed you worthy of carrying knowledge of humanity's legacy, but this knowledge comes with responsibility. You must decide whether to accept this burden. What exactly are you offering? Captain Moreth asked. If you choose to accept, you will be granted limited access to human knowledge and technology. You will also become aware of the location of certain human-descended populations throughout the galaxy. In return, you will be expected to help protect these populations from potential threats. The AI's hologram moved closer to the captain. Alternatively, I can erase all memory of this encounter from your minds. You will return to your ship believing you found nothing of interest on this planet. The choice is yours. Officer Vorin frowned. If we refuse, you'll simply take our memories without consent. Not exactly, Guardian replied. The memory alteration requires your cooperative agreement, though you would not remember giving it. This option exists for those who find the responsibility too great to bear. Captain Moreth looked at his crew. This is not a decision I can make alone. Each of you must choose for yourselves. Dr. Kezra stepped forward without hesitation. I wish to remember, the scientific knowledge alone is invaluable, but more than that, this connection to our past should not be forgotten again. One by one, the other Valorans voiced their agreement. Finally, only Captain Morith remained. He stood silent for a long moment, weighing the enormous responsibility being offered. Knowledge of humanity's legacy would forever change his people's understanding of their place in the galaxy. You created these tests to determine if we were worthy of this knowledge, he said at last. I believe we have proven ourselves worthy of the responsibility as well. We accept. Gardian smiled. Then let me show you the true legacy of humanity, and your inheritance as their children. 2 days later, the Valoran exploration team prepared to return to their ship. They had spent the time accessing selected parts of Earth's historical and scientific archives, guided by Guardian. Remember, the AI told them as they gathered their equipment, what I have shared is only a fraction of humanity's knowledge. The rest will be revealed gradually, as your people demonstrate continued commitment to the values we discussed. Captain Morith nodded. We understand. And the other defense systems, you mentioned they exist throughout the galaxy. There are 113 installations similar to this one, Guardian confirmed. Each guards a portion of human knowledge and watches over nearby human-descended populations. In time, you may be granted access to some of them as well. Dr. Kezra carefully stored several data crystals that Guardian had provided. They contained information about human medicine, science, and history that would be compatible with current Valoran technology. There's one thing I still don't understand, she said. If humanity was so advanced, why didn't they defeat the plague that forced them to leave Earth? Guardian's expression turned solemn. The Nexus plague was not natural. It was created as a weapon by a faction of humans who believed Earth's population had grown too large. They intended a controlled reduction, but the plague mutated beyond their ability to contain it. The AI's hologram moved to the center of the room. But even in their darkest hour, humans did not lose hope. Before the end, Dr. Paul Adams created Project Phoenix, a comprehensive plan for humanity's eventual reunion and restoration. What does this plan involve? Zenara asked. It spans thousands of years, Guardian explained. First, human genetic material was widely distributed to increase the chances of survival. Second, defense systems like myself were created to protect human knowledge. The third phase involves guiding developed human-descended species to rediscover their common heritage, which is happening now with you. Officer Vorin looked skeptical. And the final phase. The complete restoration of humanity as they once were, Guardian said simply. The genetic samples I showed you earlier are part of this plan. When the time is right, when enough human-descended species have reached an appropriate level of advancement and formed peaceful alliances, the full genetic template of humanity will be revealed. Guardian's hologram walked to Captain Morith. Your ship's sensors have been enhanced. You will now be able to detect the subtle genetic markers of human ancestry in other species. Use this knowledge wisely. The captain bowed slightly. We will honor this responsibility. As they prepared to leave, Guardian shared one final revelation. There is something else you should know. The Valoran creation myth speaks of the Great Seeding, when life first emerged on your world. This is not merely legend. Earth's scientists, including Stephen Roberts, deliberately sent microorganisms to promising worlds, including Valara, over 1 billion years ago. The Valorans looked at each other in astonishment. Their connection to Earth was even deeper than they had imagined. All life on your world, and many others, ultimately originated here, Guardian said. In a very real sense, you are returning to the birthplace of your species. The team made their way back to the surface, their minds filled with new knowledge and perspective. The robots escorted them to their shuttle, where Guardian's hologram appeared one last time. When you return to Valoran space, you will find subtle signs of humanity's influence that you never noticed before. Architecture, language, cultural practices, all contain echoes of human civilization. Now that you know what to look for, you will see these connections everywhere. As the shuttle lifted off, the Valorans watched the ancient structures of Earth recede below them. Some were sinking back into the ground, returning to their hidden state until needed again. Aboard the Celestial Inquiry the crew prepared to depart Earth's solar system. Captain Morath stood on the observation deck, looking down at the blue-green planet that had forever changed his understanding of the galaxy. "Set course for home," he ordered. "We have much to report." As the ship accelerated away, Gardan watched from Earth's surface. The AI sent a final message to similar systems scattered throughout the galaxy. First contact successful. Phase 3 has begun. Deep beneath Earth's surface, long-dormant systems continued their patient work. The legacy of humanity lived on, waiting for the day when the children of Earth would finally return home.